He's getting the truth from the mainstream media, folks. Can't see that. It's the opportunity to forge for ourselves and for future generations a new world order. A world where the rule of law, not the law of the jungle, governs the conduct of nations.
So let's look at each one of these and see how we can get this down to zero. Probably one of these numbers is going to have to get pretty near to zero. Now that's when I go out there. But let's take a look. First, we've got population. The world today has 6.8 billion people. That's headed up to about 9 billion. Now, if we do a really great job on new vaccines, healthcare, reproductive health services, we could lower that by perhaps 10 or 15%.
Australians to get vaccinated as quickly as possible. In line with that, I do encourage all Australians to please go and book your vaccinations as soon as you can if you haven't already done so.
Emma, you're right.
When we are successful, it is over. We have a real chance at this new world order, an order in which a credible United Nations can use its peacekeeping role to fulfill the promise and vision of the UN's founders. Okay, we need to stand up against insecurity, folks. Stop giving away your freedoms and liberties, because the more you give up, the more these people will take until you have absolutely nothing left. And that's their agenda.
Okay, sorry, there we go. That was me, sorry. Okay, sorry, I'll just start that again, folks. So we've got a couple of people here today that are coming on with us, okay, to do with grand jury law and equity law. And folks, this is about our protection. I'll just run over what I said then, okay? Okay, this is your protection, folks, okay, because you have no protection from this government that is out there at the moment. I've had numerous phone calls this morning of people telling me, did I know that the UN was in Australia, in New South Wales, Queensland and Victoria? And folks, yeah, of course I knew. The UN, I've been telling you for 6 months that they've been getting prepared, folks, okay? The little intro to the show there, folks, it just shows you exactly what's going on, okay? So we have a couple of things that can look after us, folks. One of them is equity law, okay? We're about to learn, and I'm about to sit down and learn too from Lee here about something called Iris Tane and whoever Tane's got behind him and working is stuff that we need to have a look at, folks, because Tane has got the runs on the board. There's plenty of people out there telling you that they can beat the courts this way, they can beat the courts that way. Okay, we're winning with our fines because they're absolutely useless, but people, there's other things that you are not going to beat their corrupt courts with, okay? Why? Is because they own courts. They own the language, folks, okay? It's all about language. Okay, we're trying to show you this here, all right? This is what Tane and Leith are going to show you again today. So Hey, good morning. How are you? Good to see your head, mate.
Good. Thanks for the invitation onto the show, Dave and Mel. I'm excited to be here and give people tools so they're not just harvested by the system. And as you said in your introduction, we've been harvested by language, and it's understanding the game of life. And as we step on these different fields to play, we've got to understand the rules and the language, and I hope to bring clarity to that viewpoint and understand the different laws. The current system in the courts is called jurisprudence. Now, and a friend of mine, Lee, has done a lot of work with her team in researching the law to give us a remedy, and one of the remedies is the grand jury. And I'd like to bring her on to talk about that and explain her work and her remedies. And I've gone through it, and it's fantastic, in a way, and it gives a weapon and a tool for people to use and understand and get the education on material that's not theory but factual and will work if applied. So without further ado, I'd introduce Lee Masters.
Hey,
Good
how
morning.
going?
Good morning, Lee. How are you? You're from which state are you from, darling? Fill the viewers in a little bit on who you are and what you are, your association to Tane, maybe, and just let us know what you do and where you come from.
Okay. All right. So I'm in Perth, WA. So I am a professional astrologist. So that's been part of my living for 30 years. And I also work in holistic health. And I work in a law team, not a legal team. So a lot of what we'll be defining today is the difference between lawful and legal. So as a humanity, we're only in a legal situation. We're not in a lawful situation. So there's a huge amount of unspent potential there. And so really where we have to start within this conversation is the shift of consciousness that we need to be having, and then be able to make use of the tools which we'll show you, because Mel's going to pull up the website where people can go and they can learn more, and I'll show you around that and let you see what's sitting there. So really, if we start with a bit of history to understand how we ended up where we are, I like to go, so this is the website executiveorders.life that I have just been building over the past year and a bit, basically, to pull into place concepts related to law. So Mel, can you just please go into graphic 1? This is the homepage, and this is graphic 1. I'll show you the diagram. Mel?
Yeah, she's just going in there now. She was just on the jug doing the coffee.
Oh, that's not a good start.
Unsafe content. Have you seen the one that they're censoring on Facebook now? The little flower about standing up for yourself. You know what I mean? And it's censored, man. Everybody's got it censored. There's a cover over this poor little daisy, picture of a daisy. But folks, this is the sort of stuff we're up against. Yeah.
I'm just checking my system. Just wait one moment. It might just be that you're on a it's on my system. It's because I'm on an Apple. It's your system that's actually not able to get in there.
Okay.
Can I get my page up on here, Dave?
You can. Yeah, you throw it up and hold that in.
Where's your screen share button on here?
So go down to the bottom down there, hit the share button, and then you'll go to application window.
I don't have a share button.
It's down the bottom there, Mel.
I've got mic, cam, mic.
I've got it on mine where it says mute, chat.
Yeah, you should have a share somewhere. You're on an Apple, but yeah, okay.
I'm on an iPhone.
Oh, you're on an
Oh.
iPhone.
I'm on an iPhone.
Maybe you might just have to
Okay.
throw that into the private chat, maybe. And Mel
Okay.
maybe I'll open it from there. So while Lee's just looking at that, Tane, just give us a little recap. We've got plenty of time. It's okay. We're going to have a few issues, folks, because we are getting censored like hell. Okay, so yeah, issues are just part of the game now. We'll work them out.
My history is I'm an entrepreneur and I, do business and business ideas and whatnot. The Māori came to me asking a question: if I could help them explain how.
Beautiful.
Oh, there you go.
There
you go.
We'll come back to you in a minute, Tane. Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. Let's go.
Okay. So if we're looking at lawful and legal and the shift of consciousness that we need to have as a humanity, so if we're looking astrologically, we're coming out of the age of Pisces, which is a 2,000-year cycle, and which has had us inside guardianship, which has been the Vatican and how we ended up in that situation. So as that 2,000-year cycle comes to an end, in addition to a lot of smaller cycles, and when I say smaller, I'm still talking about a Pluto cycle, 248 years, numerous Saturn cycles, 29.5 years. We're at the end of multiple cycles and we're moving into the age of Aquarius, which is the age of humanitarianism, which is the age where humanity manages itself. So we've been in guardianship. So it's really important that at a consciousness level, we're understanding the structure that we have been in, because then we actually have a pathway to move ourselves out of the structure. Whereas what's sort of happening right now is humanity keeps arguing with the structure, and the structure loves that. It feeds the courts.
Can I ask who the guardianship that we've been under is, Leith? Could you explain that to me?
Yes, you can. Yeah, you sure can. And that's the pink circle in the middle, and I'll tell you how we get there. The guardianship has been the Vatican and all of its octopus tentacles that have come out and run the entire planet for us all these years. But if we go back through history, and so in the world that I'm specifically talking about now, we're defining law as rule of law. All are equal before the law. It's only 6 words. All are equal before the law. That is the measuring stick. Okay. So we want to kind of drop that term common law. It's a bit of a distraction at this point in time. Let's clean up and clarify things. So if we look back in history, and we can go back thousands of years, but we'll only just go back to the Magna Carta, to 1215, when the barons were trying to assert rule of law by having King John sign off on the Magna Carta that there was not a separate set of laws for the king. That is what happened. So that's what rule of law is. All are equal before the law. We can't have a nobility or a government that has a separate set of rules for itself. So 806 years later, you can see that we are still fighting that same argument, right? But let's go back. So we're at 1215. Then at 1297, the Magna Carta is solidifying itself. So at 1297, we're now anchoring in the rule of law, all are equal. Now that's going to pose a threat of power to the Vatican. So just 5 years later, we're talking 800 years here, but just in a 5-year window, Pope Boniface steps in and does Unum Sanctum, which is known to be, that's in 1302, known to be the first express trust on the planet, where the Vatican owns itself to be, or declares itself to be, the Pope declares himself to be the king of the world, and all of the planet and all of the people and all of the resources are under its jurisdiction. And so that's where we have this pink circle in the middle, right? So this, now we've gone into a private legal system where we're going to be managed by what this infrastructure believes we should be managed as. So we're going into guardianship. And if you look through the legislations through the centuries, you do see the Board of the Guardians. They come about in 1535 with Henry VIII and the first beginnings of what's called the Poor Laws. And they keep developing throughout the years. And by 1834, we have a major amendment to the Poor Laws connected to the judges and the magistrates, and that links into New Zealand and what Tane will speak about. That's also the birth of the birth certificate, but the birth certificate was a development from the settlement certificate. So with the Poor Laws, the poor, which is us, the people, were given to the church as property to be looked after, and really looking after them just simply meant that they didn't really die. It didn't mean that they got any luxuries or anything, just that they were basically kept alive, which is much the same as what we have today. We can see the origins of something like Centrelink in the Workhouse Test Act of 1723. So it's all there for us to know and see. It's very fascinating. And so if we just stay focused on that pink circle for a little bit, we can say that legal is a subset of lawful, because law belongs to God, and we are all God in a human suit having a human experience for however long our human suit lasts for. 10 years, 50 years, 100 years, whatever it might be. So we're all here as God having a human experience, and we have the beauty of being able to use the laws of God, which is the flows of cycles, the seasons, the planting of a seed and getting a tree, all those beautiful things that we get to experience. But when we find ourselves in a subset of law called legal, those things have been stripped away. But however, legal is always going to be answerable to law, because in law, we're working with energetic principles that cannot be denied. Let's all just try and stop summer arriving, okay? You're not going to be able to do that. You're not going to be able to stop the sun from rising. So in these regards, when we're working with these energetic principles, we know that we've already won. As a humanity, we've already won, because we're God and we're working with God's laws. But what keeps happening is people don't understand, they can't see, because it's centuries old, they can't see the architecture and the boundary of the system. They just keep fighting and punching at it. They can't see this line between the end of the red cycle and the beginning of the red circle, and the beginning of the blue circle. They can't see and understand how to step out of it, that there's actually a tool sitting there called law that hasn't been picked up yet, right? We're not actually using that yet. People keep going into the courts of the pink circle, the private legal system, and expecting to find law there, and they come away scratching their heads and bemused and going, oh my God, what just happened? But it's not a system designed to deliver law. It's a system designed to deliver legal. And in the legal system, humanity is in guardianship. And in guardianship, you're deemed to be incompetent for whatever reason. And we know the reasons through the history of the Vatican. The Vatican has a whole story attached to how it separated us from our soul, because it's been harvesting the soul and the currency, our energetic life force current. So that's what it's been doing, harvesting that. And so you're deemed incompetent in the context of you're either a permanent child or you're lost in the Holy See and you're salvaged by the birth certificate. And these types of elements that keep you stuck in guardianship. And so the guardian comes along and says, oh, it's time for my human herd to be vaccinated by the farmer, the big pharma. The big pharma is now vaccinating its human herd, because we believe that it's time. Yeah, we've got these new tools. We're going to vaccinate our human herd. And the human herd is going, oh my God, no, stop. Yeah. But the human herd is inside this pink circle at this point in time, until we have a quantum shift of consciousness that allows humanity to see where it is standing, and therefore to be able to step out of it and to stop feeding the beast. So I'll show you some other tools in a minute, but I'll just keep going here for a second. So I'm not saying that protesting is bad. Of course, protesting is, you know, the voice of the people, but we have to stop spending our energy in this way in going into combat with the beast, because it loves it. That's what its job is, to keep stirring the pot. And people take these cases into the private legal system, wanting the private legal system to say, oh, yes, you can have your rights, which it may or may not do, but the reality is those rights have been put into order many, many times over. The fact that they're going through the courts and we're waiting for Joe Blogg's judge to say, oh, yes, you know, the vaccinations are dangerous. It's just absolutely ridiculous and such a waste of energy. And until we stop actually conducting ourselves in this way, we're not going to make any real headway. We're going to continue to squander energy. And people are getting tired. And if you've ever read Silent Weapons for Quiet Wars, that Bilderberg paper that, you know, snuck out through the photocopier, you know, of course, there's that whole strategy there. And on this site, you can actually find that paper now. It's only about 45 pages to read. And you can see the strategy. You know, they bring in the measures slowly, and then the second time they're a bit tougher, and the third time tougher, and they're wearing people down psychologically, physically, financially, emotionally. You know, we can see the devastation. So there's a real, you know, urgency that people redirect their energy and stop arguing with this private legal system and expecting it to deliver law. It's a slave system. It's all it's ever been. And stop expecting it to deliver anything other than guardianship, which is to say that you're incompetent and you can't manage your own affairs. And we're happy for you to come in and spend thousands of dollars and have sleepless nights and keep asking us to tell you that you can have your rights.
So,
saying something there, Dave?
So what you've covered there, Leaf, is exactly what we've been saying in another dimension to our viewers for a long, long time, which is that, folks, you have no idea how this world has been run for a very, very long time. You have no idea about the Vatican, the Black Pope, the Jesuit Jews, the Freemasonry, the pedophilia, you know, that is just ripe and rampant in our political and our Hollywood and everywhere else, all the elites, you know what I mean? Sorry, you know, I'm labeling them all, you know, they all come under that one class, and it's called evil, folks, okay? And I think what we're going to get here is a very good description for my viewers out there that, you know, what I've been trying to put across to you people in not so many terms, because it's hard to get your head around. If I told you the things that go on underground, people, and I tell you a little bit of it, but if you actually knew what went on with adrenochrome and the things that, you know, we got to be very careful about talking on here on this program, okay? But the things that this deep state has had in play for a long, long time, the technologies they have, folks, okay, it is just incredible. So this whole evil thing now is going to be explained a little bit better, I think, by Leith, by going back and giving us, you know, this documentary, which he's just done then, you know, through the times, folks, of what happened. Now, as I say Australia's been put in this boiling pot, and we were the frog in the cold water, and slowly they've just turned up the gas till as it starts to get warm, you know what happens. The warmer it gets, the quicker it gets to boiling point, because you've gone through all this, you know, warm-up stage. And this is where we are now, folks, okay? If we could jump out of the pot, every single one of us out there on the other end of this screen would jump out of the pot, okay? Now, listen to what I just said. We would all jump out of the pot because it's getting friggin' hot in here, okay? Really hot, okay? Now, the guy sitting below me can get you out the pot, okay? The lady sitting to this way, to the left of me on screen, can get you out the pot. This is what we're trying to show you people, okay, that there is a way to get out of this boiling water. Okay, there is. Okay, we're going to be surrounded by the boiling water, but if you're not getting the effects of the boiling water, you can then be there to throw a rope to somebody else, pull them out the water, throw a rope to 2 or 3 people. And, you know, I just want to make that point, you know, that here we are, we're talking about what's going on in this world. We have UN vehicles in Australia, okay, We have their technology here to stop crowds in an instant now, folks. They just point this thing at you, man, this ray thing, all right, and they stop you in an instant, okay? You cannot go towards this thing. They have dispersion things ready to go, folks, okay? It is getting worse and worse and quicker. It is going downhill, okay? So do yourself and do the good Lord a favor. Listen to what these people are telling you. We were given a right under God, okay? No one can show me the contract where I de-sign from my contract with the good Lord. It don't exist. Okay, he gave us the contract in Genesis 1:26. Tane's told you a few times now. Okay, Leith will tell you the same thing. The contract was given. These evil wankers have just done whatever they've wanted to do. They have not run by law, they have not run by ethics, and they have not run by morals for a hell of a long time. Okay, and it is time, folks, that we stand up and we get it together. Otherwise, yeah, they're going to come. And they're coming hard and strong. So, yeah, Tane, would you like to say anything to Leaf at the moment? You're probably up to this, but is there any questions you've had just that before we let it continue and go?
No, let it continue. It's important to grasp the language, and I'll talk after Lee, but she's got more fantastic information to deliver.
Okay.
Amazing. She's done a lot of homework. It's good foundations to build something that's credibility to push back. It's got to have good bones and good foundation, and Lee's done the homework and to impeccable depths.
Okay.
And she articulates a very complex subject very simply.
Very simply. I didn't want to stop you there. I just wanted to just reiterate to the folks that this is what we got to do. Okay, we have nothing left except the law that the good Lord gave us. You know what I mean? And this is what you two people there are putting out. So yeah, I just want to reiterate with the people to listen up, because listen up. This is our only way, We were given this land, this earth by God. We were given dominion over it. These evil wankers just took what they wanted to take off us, folks, but they only took it illegally. Okay, so continue on, Lee. Sorry, I just wanted to push a point.
That's fine. It's all good. Okay, Mel, can you please put the site back up? Okay, so we'll just you jump off this now. So I'll just be clear for people so they can go to the site themselves and start looking around, because it is designed to be really simplified, because law is simple. Legal is the complex bit, and it's complex for a reason, to trap you and to waste your time. So you can come to this graphic. It's called Graphic 1 on the homepage. It's in the purple box. You'll see it really easily. Can you just go back to the homepage, please, Mel? And you can have a look at that image. So here on the homepage, if we just look at the top of what is being said there, which is to say basically that we're changing ages. So there's a lot of peace to be found in knowing that we're not just floating in no man's land. Astrology exists for a reason. And when astrology is the mainframe of the consciousness of humanity, it is God, it is the bones of God. And to follow those stepping stones is critically important to understanding where we are up to. So when we say we're changing an age, we have to take that on board. We're changing ages. Okay, yippee, let's change ages. We're coming out of the age of Pisces and we're going into the age of Aquarius. Now, we know that we were given the meek shall inherit the earth. Well, what are we inheriting? We're inheriting everything that we've already built. Every system that exists out there, we own it because we built it. It's built with our energy. It's just been under the guardianship, and the guardianship is toxic. It's always been toxic, and it's just showing itself to be super toxic now. So Mel, can you please go to the menu on the top right hand? Hang on just 1 second. Let's go to the green box on the left hand side there. So that's just some basics of law. Law is super simple, and it's, we have the 10 commandments for a reason. There's only 10 of them. Sorry, I'm actually jigging into my own computer at the same time, so I'll just be 1 moment while I pull up the site myself. But you can see there in the green box the principles that we are able to rely on in law is that consent is essential for everything. So they've overridden that, which makes them a slave trader. Mandatory does not exist, because if it's mandatory, it means they must have overridden consent. So they're a slave trader. Artificial intelligence, so all corporations, they're created by us, humanity. So they can never be superior to us. So we cannot let artificial intelligence get a grip on humanity and believe that it has superior jurisdiction over the management of humanity when it does not. And super important concept to understand is corporate immunity. There is no such thing as corporate immunity, which is to say the CEO, for example, Coles, let's say, for example, says, okay, to come into our supermarkets now, you absolutely now must show a vaccination passport. Just say we'd got to that point. So that person foolishly believes they're protected by Coles, the corporation Coles. There's no such thing. And so I'll show you the tools in a minute, how we can break all that down. So they're the basic principles that we are relying on to use for us, which is law. Now, Mel, if you can please just go into the top right corner, look at forms and gazettes, and you'll see a drop-down menu. So I just give you the web address again in case people missed it and they want to be following what we're doing here, so you can see the tools. It's just called executiveorders.life. I can see it's showing up on the screen there. Thank you for that. Right, so here is a number of tools for you to use, and I will go back to the front and show you another one a little bit in a minute. So don't let me forget to show you that. So you can put in a notice. If you look at form, okay, so we'll just go quickly through, but really I want to get to the grand jury. That's the most important bit. The first one here is public notice of Crown jurisdiction. So if we just clarify the consciousness that we're talking about, because it all starts with consciousness and you being God, and you being very clear that you are God in a human suit, and therefore you must act responsibly and in huge honor of that position that you are doing. Do unto others as you expect them to do unto yourself, and therefore no one would be in charge of you. So in that first one, public notice of Crown jurisdiction, you can register yourself as being in Crown jurisdiction, not in guardianship anymore. And everything here will have a gazette. To the right hand side of it is a gazette, because in law we have to gazette everything that we're doing in order for it to have standing. So if we were to click on that gazette, Mel, can you just click on that gazette, please? Yep, that one. So you would enter yourself in the form, and then you would show up here on the gazette, which is to say, I've declared myself in Crown jurisdiction, meaning there is no one higher. If you look at the logo of this site, it is to say, I am Crown, right? Crown is the corporate Crown is our public servant. And, you know, there's a use for the corporate Crown. We do need our trees cut so they don't bang the wires, and our bins emptied, and all these sorts of things. So there's a need for the corporate Crown, but it's the public servant, and the public servant has become the ruler because it alleges that we are incompetent. So this is about us standing up and claiming our rightful place through a shift of consciousness. So you can see in the logo on the left-hand side there, it's clearly indicating you are Crown. If you know Bob Marley's music, he's saying, you know, and I'm a rainbow too. So you are the rainbow. That is your chakra system. We're all energetically linked. This is what we're doing. So if you were to have registered yourself in Crown jurisdiction, you would show up here in this gazette. So Mel, can you just scan up so people can see that you would show up on the gazette and just say you were pulled over at the side of the road by a police officer who wanted to be belligerent, for example. You could pull this gazette up on your phone and say, oh, no, thank you, sir. You know, I'm actually standing in Crown jurisdiction, unless, of course, you were doing something wrong. And then, yes, you are answerable. You cannot be doing 100 kilometres in a 60 zone. You're not allowed to do that. You've got to do unto others as you expect them to do unto you. And every society has rules so that we protect each other from being harmed, and a 60-kilometre speed limit is to protect all of us. It's not to be belligerent about. So don't be silly when I'm telling you these things. You cannot go and be belligerent in society in any way, but you could pull this up at the side of the oh, here you go, I'm on the Gazette, I registered my Crown jurisdiction, you know, on this date, and onward we go there. We're not going to get bogged down in what is a very low level frequency to be discussing something like if I was pulled over at the side of the road, because we've got way more important stuff to discuss in a relatively limited time frame. So that's the Gazette. So moving on from there to the next form, Mel, can you go back to the Gazette, please? Pull down the forms and Gazettes. Yes, please. This is where we're largely going to stay. Form A, injured party. So this is similar to what I'm going to show you in a minute, but it's this is if a corporation violates you. So you can put in your details here. You can list the person that has violated you in a corporation. Just say you were working at Bunnings and you got fired for whatever reason, maybe the vaccine thing. You can register all that here, and that person's name, your boss, they'll show up here, and then they'll end up in the Gazette. So you can again go over and look at the Gazette, and you can see the matters there. You'll see numerous matters listed already, such as trying to get glyphosate out of the councils, for example. So that matter might be, if you go into the Gazette, Mel, really quick. So all these matters will show up on the Gazette, and we as a community, now there's other people involved, obviously, and there's big teams of people with these other people that are all looking to reorganize themselves. So, for example, a team might say, we're going to be a team of 10 people. We're going to handle all the councils in Australia. We're going to put out an order that says by the 31st of October, there will be no more glyphosate sprayed in our communities, and every single council has to log on and say, yes, we have now ceased. Yes, so that we can map all of that. Okay. So that's that level there. And so you can use that if you've been injured in some way, and because we've removed corporate immunity in law, remember? So you want to be able to separate out someone that might be thinking, oh, I'm in a uniform, I can do this to you, I'm just going to violate you, and there's no repercussions. No, sorry, we work in law. There are repercussions. We are drawing you to a halt. You are not protected by your corporation. You are 100% liable and accountable for what you do. So if you take a paycheck and you think you can get away with harming someone for that, you cannot, which puts the onus on that individual to then say to their boss, hey, I think I'm harming somebody to be doing this, and I'm going to hold you next up my chain of command accountable for expecting me to harm somebody. So what are you going to do about it? So you've got to rearrange your thinking of how do we get rid of this toxic framework that we've got sitting in our communities. Now we're going to go down to the inaugural grand jury and have a look at that. Mel, can you please pull that up second from the bottom, inaugural grand jury? So because people are constantly arguing with the system and expecting it to deliver law, when it doesn't deliver law, it delivers legal. And let's be really clear about that. On the equinox that we've just come through, which was September 23rd at 5:22 a.m. Canberra time, so the exact time, we launched the grand jury, the inaugural Australian grand jury that is based in rule of law. All are equal before the law. And this is the grand jury. So we're now, I guess, what's the date? I guess we're now a good 2 weeks into it. So Mel, if you can just scan down that, please. So you can see on here, there is a place for you to become a juror. Now, the grand jury has significant writings behind it, a lot of what I'm speaking about right now, and those writings are at the bottom of this page in 2 PDFs, so it's 61 pages altogether. You'll find them. That it's Mel's system that's not bringing them up. Don't worry about it. They're sitting there. You'll find them.
They'll be on the website. Yeah.
And then up above that is the recordings of the 61 pages. So if you want to be doing your dishes or whatever, you can listen to the recordings and understand the contents of the grand jury and what it is doing, which is putting law into place in one foul swoop. That is what has happened. We are standing in the jurisdiction of rule of law. All are equal before the law. Now, Mel, can you just please go back to the Gazette of the grand jury? Yes, please. Thanks. You're doing an awesome job. I really, yeah. And to the right there, a fraction. Oh, just to the next. Yes. So we only needed 36 people to make the grand jury official. That's the birth chart of the change of jurisdiction for Australia to step into rule of law. And because to get us into rule of law, in the writings of the grand jury is the collapse of unum sanctum back in 1302, where we went into the express trust, where we became under guardianship. So we needed 36. We're currently on, I think 152 people have signed on as grand jurors to say, yes, I understand this. I'm totally for it. Let's move into rule of law and move away from the legal system. So that is actually all now authentic and ratified, so to speak. This is what we've done. But ultimately, it depends on the consciousness of the people. And someone might say, well, you know, who are you, or what right did you have to do that? And the response to that is, well, what right do I not have to do that? What right did the Pope have to put us into unum sanctum? I am God in a human suit, just as you are God in a human suit. And at some point, we have to draw a line in the sand and say, we're done here. Whoa, we're done. We have got unmarked, unnamed militia on our street firing paper bullets at people. Well, those paper bullets rip 6-centimeter holes inside people's organs and rip people's faces apart. So when we reached a level like that, not that it hasn't all been disgusting before that, but that is a whole new level of sinister. So we are working, you have to also appreciate, we've got to work from the spirit levels down. When you have significant shift of consciousness that you are understanding this, we will stop fighting on the physical level. That's really important, to stop fighting on the physical level. Conserve your energy, and it's as above, so below, right? As above, so below. So you've got to change it from the above section. We're having the change of consciousness going on here. That's what we're doing. We're birthing. That's what this change of jurisdiction is to say, I'm now in Crown jurisdiction. I'm now operating in law. You can't do that. So other matters for consideration in this shift is, Mel, can you please go back to the, now we'll look at the last element, the Australia trials. So, you know, you've got to wonder where these people that have been doing all this crazy crap with the vaccines and so forth, you know, you've got to say, what, have you been living under a rock? Did you not know that there was the Nuremberg trials? Did you not know that it was defined there and in numerous other places that you cannot access the body without permission? But remember, we're in guardianship and we're owned by this church, allegedly, in its little crazy workshop of what it thinks is going on, and, you know, where it's human herd and we're all just getting vaccinated by the farmer, the big farmer. So as we step in and we say, no, thank you, that's not going to happen. No. The Australia trial, so we're right on the cusp of it. It's the equivalent to the Nuremberg trials. And so this, can you just scan down, please, a little bit, Mel? This form is for you to report someone. And just as we've done a grand jury that has 152 people on it now, we can also form our grand juries around Australia under rule of law and host a 12-person jury. You could do more people if you want to, because we are God and we are protecting ourselves, and we can do whatever the hell we want to protect ourselves under God's law. And we can pluck off whoever the hell we need to take. If somebody is coming in and thinking that they've got the right to do whatever, no, they don't. And we can hold a trial for them. And you know what happened in the Nuremberg trials? People either got hung or they got a very significant jail sentence, and a few of them were let off. But this is the level of serious
of them, actually.
we're talking about. Sorry, go, Dave. What?
I say 28 of them actually got let off and all got dispersed around the world. But again, folks, you need to know about this, you know, like, you know, look, the Germans lost the war, but guess what? The Nazis won the war, folks. Okay. And that's how it went down. All right. And then they were shifted out through Europe and South America and that. Okay. But, you know, the top 28 scientists, right, from the Nazi regime Okay, it's called Operation Paperclip. People, go and look it up, man. They were dispersed throughout the world to use their filthy, evil, things in another place. So, yeah, Germany lost the war, but the Nazis won the war, folks. Carry on, dude.
Okay, yeah, and so, I mentioned Operation Paperclip in the writings of all of this so that, yeah, we can see how they did continue to get dispersed. And not ironically, mirrors within mirrors, cycles within cycles. If you're not aware of the Heffernan hearing, where another 28 names are on that critical paper that has failed rule of law, all are equal before the law. If you commit a crime, you will be trialed for your crime. And yet in the Heffernan hearing, we are aware that there's 28 names where these people have got a suppression order for 80 or 90 years. So they're allowed to do their crime, allegedly, and this suppression order will let them live out their life, and then they could be trialed for their crime, but they'll have lived their life and they'll have died. Now, that is a form of insanity.
And John Howard signed that off, folks. John Howard signed that off, if you really want to know. They're unbelievable.
Okay, right. So, and yeah, the list is somewhere of the names. So,
yep.
I'll go back to the homepage quickly, please, Mel. So hang on, let me just tell you some of the deadlines. The second grand jury is for the 21st of October. So that's all still being formulated as myself and others that are in the fold are putting together, certain structures and so forth. But the 11th, if you look at order number 48 in the orders, because when you get to the orders section of the jury, there's about 120 orders which pull all of these behaviours into line. They're top level orders. And so at the second grand jury, it will be more about organising groups of people to oversee what's happening. So we basically have focus teams and then community audit teams. If we look at, for just quickly, the board of the Guardians currently that has the Futures Fund, which has Peter Costello as the chairperson, and it has $226 billion in it. He also is the chairperson of Channel 9, which is a gross conflict of interest. And even though there's writings in the paperwork for the fund about conflict of interest, nobody in that whole board has deemed it a conflict of interest that the chairman of the board for the Futures Fund would also be the chairman for Channel 9. And the Futures Fund has got $2.5 billion worth of investment in vaccinations. So you can see they've got their own little private business model, and then they channel it out through their own little privately owned voice box to all these people that sit and watch mainstream media all the time. They're like, oh, I better go and get my vaccine. Yeah. And it's like, okay, well, in 3 years you are possibly going to be dead because the vaccine is full of graphene oxide. So we've got all these kinds of debacle sorts of systems. So that's why we need a focus team that will go in and remove the board of the Guardians, and they'll become the board of the trustees, because we've changed jurisdiction. So we're no longer under guardianship. So the Guardians are no longer making the decisions. Oh, these people are incompetent. They're our human herd and we're going to vaccinate them. Now, when the Guardians become the trustees, and they will not be the same people because they're incompetent, the trustees must be in a position where they're listening for directions from humanity, because that's what trustees are doing. We are the beneficiaries. So they're waiting to hear, now what do we do with your resources, people? We are waiting to hear from you. How are we going to disperse these resources? So with all our systems that we've already built, we need to have the focus teams that go in and look at them and assess, do we want to keep this system? Does it have functionality? Do we need to overhaul it in this way or that way? And recommendations are made. And then in comes the community audit team. So there's a second audit team that can oversee it, and it all has to be reported and documented. You can hear that when we have a chairman of the board for the Futures Fund that's also the chairman of the board for Channel 9, we have no community audit team. Nobody stood up and said that is a gross conflict of interest. That is an outrageous situation to have for Australia. And another little thing that you might find interesting, you'll come across it in the recordings and in the writings for the grand jury, but Pfizer that's in cahoots with BioNTech. So Pfizer's German and BioNTech is a Turkish married couple, right? So they launched the BioNTech shares in October of 2019. In March of 2020, we had the arrival of the COVID. So the shares launched at $13.82 6 months before, or 5 months before the COVID began. Guess how much they are now per share? $339 per share. So in 23 months, they have made 2,400% profit on their shares. Now, how do they do that? They have 8 billion customers. You are its customer, whether you like it or not. They do not care, because you're in guardianship by their system, and you cannot be seen and you cannot be heard. If you've ever had any court matters, unless you change jurisdiction, you will not be seen and you will not be heard, because you're just cattle. You are clearly defined in the writings throughout history. You are cattle. You cannot be seen and cannot be heard. Now, one last thing before I pretty much hand the floor back.
Yeah, no, I got questions for you first. I would say carry on and we finish. And
one
then I'll
last
hit you
thing.
with a couple. Yep.
Yeah, one last thing, Dave, please. Back at the homepage. Now, this, some of the other tools, you can see, if you go down, Mel, a little bit further, please, there's public notice of Crown jurisdiction. So you can see in the, yeah, you're right there, Mel, thanks. In there is, you can click on that. There's like a wallet-sized version of, oh no, I don't think you're in the right spot. Hold on. No, I can, oh. Hang on one second. Let me just check on mine. Homepage, and then into public notice of Crown jurisdiction. Oh, no, one second. Sorry, folks. One sec. Home. Oh no, the next section down, please, Mel. Sorry, the green boxes says wallet-sized, fillable, printable notice of superior standing in rule of law. Have you got it, Mel? It's coming.
Yep, opening up
so
now.
These are a couple of tools. So that's a fillable. You can fill that out. You can print it. You can laminate it. You can put it in your wallet, for example, that says, oh, no, I'm in Crown jurisdiction. You're not allowed to touch me. I'm in charge. You're my public servant. And then the next one would be, the one over from that is for your store. So all these shops that are closed right now that can't trade, you know, our most fundamental right is that we can trade and be in community together. But the caution with these tools is that really we need the quantum shift of consciousness to happen, which is the beauty of doing a show like this, where people are actually able to move in a quantum shift and go, okay, I get it. We've been in legal, we're moving to lawful. We've got to hold accountability. And so the 11th, which is actually Monday, is the day that Pfizer really needs to be presenting its papers to us that it has permission to be manufacturing bioweapons on our lands. And of course, they're not going to have those papers. All they have is a dodgy contract with a private corporation that calls itself the government. And so, you know, then the Australia trials can begin from the 11th forward. And, you know, I'm prepared to extend the amnesty a little bit, because we're trying to create a pressure cooker of information flowing where people are suddenly like going, oh my God, am I one of those people that's going to be eligible for the equivalent of a Nuremberg trial? And the answer is, yeah, possibly you are. And you better quickly change your behavior. So there, I'm pretty much done in a nutshell. And I'll hand it back to you.
Well, that was great. I absolutely love that. Yeah. And, yeah, very informative. I've got a couple of questions just to, and Tane may have a couple there, but so I'm going to come and speak as a layman here. Okay. So I'm going to take my little smart hat off that I'm supposedly supposed to have. But anyway, so you're telling me that we've got a website out there that I'm bringing the lady up with me, Mel, if you can just put Lisa up. Yeah. Okay. So you're telling me you've got a website out there that we can actually log all this stuff into. Yeah. As of from now, we can all get ourselves registered. Tane, just nod and carry on with me, Tane. Yeah, because I'm watching you as well, because I'm just speaking off lib here. Okay, so we have a website. We can do all this stuff. We can get ourselves possibly out of a system a little bit, and tell them that here we are, we stand under the under God's law, etc., etc. Now, you mentioned groups of people. I mean, you've got 152 there already. You needed 36. I think with 152 was the figure shown there. Now, is that a group in Western Australia, or is that an affiliation in Australia? Because what I'm going to say is, do we need to now create these groups in any other state so I can start taking people like the Shadow Health Minister, Ryan Park, here, and actually hit him with these forms, you know what I mean, to desist or whatever, and, So are we looking for groups to be put together in each state? Are we looking for each capital city? How are you actually looking to get this? Like, we can run off one central website, that's great, but what about the people on the ground? How are we looking at doing that, Leith?
Okay, so the grand jury is Australia-wide. If you look at the Gazette, you'll see that people register their state. So you'll see that there's people that have come on from all over Australia. So it's an Australia-wide awareness. The actual groups, no, we have other people in the team that have tens of thousands of people that are all reorganizing themselves already. And so as we disperse this content and this consciousness, they can reorganize under that level of consciousness that's what they're doing. So it's not like we only have 152 people. That's just the jury. Yeah. So they're
just people that think they're of ethical and moral stature to actually put their hand up and be on a grand jury, I would presume. Yeah.
Yeah. And one of the other tools on the site is you can be an ambassador for rule of law. A lot of people automatically understand rule of law, and you can be an ambassador, and you'd go on a Gazette, which means if someone was a bit confused, they could look on the Gazette and say, oh, so-and-so's near me, or here's their email. I'm going to confer with them. How does rule of law really work? And I've got this matter, and how would I make it work for me? So we're also building out that type of, infrastructure where there's people in community that have really got a light bulb moment. A lot of people have obviously done an amazing amount of work for many decades. But in terms of just like drawing a line in the sand and shutting down this legal system, that's what we've basically done, and it has to just be followed through with now.
Okay. There's a question I've just put up on the screen that's coming from someone.
Has this Has the system applied force of arms for due process at common law?
Do you understand that one, Tane? Can you explain, Zero, if you'd like to put that back in and just give us a little bit more of a go, Tane?
Yeah. You've got jurisdictions of law, and like we said in the beginning of the meeting, we've been captured by language. So there's equity law, there's statute law, there's common law, there's jurisprudence law. So that what Lee's saying is we're coming out of that whole cup and developing a new cup by the people, for the people. So the law is God's law. It's got nothing to do with common law or any other language. This is a new language, a new cup, and the grand jury is like the difference, what Lee says, law and legal. We've got to understand the difference, the basics. And furthermore, we've got to understand the intent is with the spirit, not with the matters of physical form or symptom. We are developing the spiritual intent as the first law under God. So then we formulate through our mental calculations the greatest good for the greatest number. Then we attach some emotion to it, which is the driver that drives it in with the force of law. And then we get the symptom. We've got to follow that process. And to follow that process, you must ask questions and not make statements. If you're making statements, you already got a perceived concept, a belief system, a habit, and perception. The law is with the questions, and it ties back to the Bible. You part the seas left and right. You part your left brain, your right brain, and the spirit of intent, because all law is an intent, comes forward. And the grand jury with the clarity of the people to ask questions, will uncover the facts and then correct the records. And that's where this system and research is important, because the first court, and I've done over 2,000 odd cases in New Zealand in courts, and I asked the question, am I entitled to full disclosure? Yes. Can you prove can the Crown prove a contract where I have a contract or transferred my contract to another Crown or a government? Can they provide the contract? And the answer is no. So I move motion to dismiss the case for want of facts. But people go into courts, which is a dead man's system, and argue, give consent to the court to be harvested, and we've got to stop that. As Lee said, the energy of that, because you don't understand the language of which you're going into. And you've got to get yourself educated on this website on who you are. What are you? Are you the matter or are you the spirit? And when you part your left brain and your right brain, you will be the spirit. Everything yet nothing, asking questions.
Yeah.
So it's not about facing off, as Lee said. It's not about facing off with other, fighting, punching, arguing. It's about going to consciousness. And to get to status of consciousness, you've got to ask the question, who am I? You've got to get new language. You've got to develop a new cup. And that's what Lee's done, is given the resource of developing a new cup, not going and wasting your energy in the old cup where you can't win.
Yeah.
It's like a casino. It's like the house will always win.
Yep. Yeah. You might
So
get a little one here and there, but yeah.
Yeah. Give up the fight. Give up the energy. Migrate yourself to a consciousness, a spiritual being. We're not human doings. We're human beings. We've got to acknowledge ourselves as beings, gods. You're the son of God. When are you going to grow up and take your status and your rightful position as heir and successor of the lands, as kaitiaki or as a stewardship, and understand the rule of law handed down by God? No one owns anything. We're just administrating it until we hand it over to the next spirits.
And that's exactly right, Tony. But the problem that we have with society, and this is just, I'm using people close to me here because this is a perfect example of, like they are that brainwashed and misconstrued in what the real world is happening in the real world out there when they step out from the media and all the lies and the propaganda that's going on. Now, I'm not allowed to go to my parents' place at the moment because I don't wear a mask and I'm unjabbed, and they happen to live in an over 50s thing, and some people have been talking. They know my stance. They know what I do. So the word's gone around Mum's Park that they don't really want me in there at the moment. You know what I mean? Because I refuse to have the jab and I won't wear a mask and I don't Q code. So I've actually, my mum said to me, look, last Monday it was, I said, or Sunday night, I said, I'm going to come and see you tomorrow. And I got a phone call back on the Sunday night going, son, do you think you could just not come down? Now my parents are Christian. Okay. These are the most beautiful people I've ever met in my life. I'm not pushing that just because they're my parents. I'm telling you. Okay. These are what I presumed. I'm going to watch what I say here. I've always looked up to as the two shining people to make it to heaven. My mum would be in the cook's vein, cooking for the Lord, and the old man would be out doing his gardening, catching his fish. I said, they'd be high people in the crowns of the heaven. That was my imagination of my parents. My parents are now double jabbed. Probably going to have a booster if it comes along. Okay. My mum now realised that where we're sitting now is so close to Germany that it's not funny, pre-war, okay, because she grew up through it. She lived through it. My granddad was a rat at Tobruk, her father, all right, and his 15-year-old brother who lied about his age to get on a boat and go and fight as well, Okay, and both of them come home, get that, both rats of Trabrook. Okay, so they've been through it all, yet here we are on the 11th, which is Monday. I'm allowed to go down and see Mum now. Why? Because the frigging television's told her I'm allowed to. You know, I can't go there at the moment, but come the 11th, COVID's gone now. The 11th, oh, geez, I'd like to swear. What a frigging smart virus. It knows that on the 11th I can go to Mum's. It ain't here no more. Come on, folks, wake up. Seriously, wake up. What's for me going to my mum's place this week or next week?
David, in 1987 in New Zealand went bankrupt. A gentleman called Jeffrey Palmer went to the Queen and asked her to sign over the country. She refused. And he came back and he constructed the ministries under corporation and migrated everything in the ministry, the police force. He turned everything from departments into ministries. Now, the public at large, the sheeple, didn't know. Apart from letterhead changing, no one knew.
Yeah.
And that's what we're doing here. And I believe what Lee's done is creating a structure and a system that the able will come in, will change the letterhead, and everything's changed. And nothing, it's just a merger and takeover.
Yeah.
And it doesn't,
fine.
it just needs to, it just needs to work with the able.
Yeah. And I agree. I'm just trying to get across the mindset of most people out there that have been dumbed down for so long. We're the minority sitting here. You know what I mean? Unfortunately.
Sure.
I wish we were the majority, but yeah.
But it took Moses, the majority, to lead the people to the promised land. It just takes one or two to stand up, know the system, know the language, to transform it. And that's what we're doing. And, meeting Lee has been a fantastic blessing from God in what she's done. And it's now time where people like Lee and other people like her, yourself, Dave, it's amazing coming together. And it's up to us to not keep arguing about the system, but actually make the doingness of change.
Yeah, the changes, yeah.
And we take this down to the grassroots. I've got a letter from the Attorney General saying that the local councils are illegal. So we need to bring this knowledge and formulate our local councils in municipal law and give the power back to the people, for the people, and then just working with the able, not the enable. The enable will follow the able.
The V must have long service leave, I like, John. Yeah. No, look.
Can I just add a couple of practical things, please?
Yep.
One is, I advise that people listen to all of the recordings of the grand jury, because there is an energetic shift in there, even though it's 3.5 hours of listening, but it's worth listening to. But please pay particular attention to the orders, because the orders are saying things like we cannot have any type of public servant, police or foreign entities on our land without them having their ID numbers and their names all accessible and that type of thing. And they cannot be armed and us be unarmed. So there's a lot of content in there that people need to have their heads kind of wrapped around in terms of expectation. If we don't set an expectation of what we expect for ourselves, other than just saying, oh my God, I don't like this and I don't like that, we have to actually change our language and our intent and expectation that what's going to happen is going to be under our management. And the other element to really find peace in, and it's not always that easy to find peace in it, is that, in this time, lots of souls came in with, everyone's come in with their own contract. Some souls have come to experience death via a publicly owned experimental cocktail called a vaccination. That's what they chose to experience in this life. And everyone is different. And it's hard to say, but we can't save everyone. So we do have to actually just realize that, like in any event, there's always the 1% that move first, followed by the 5%, followed by the 15%, and eventually the herd will come. But we are the ones parting the Red Sea into the Exodus, and we are walking out of this legal system, and we are walking in to law, and not everyone is going to make it, and we know that, and that's always been prophesized, and that's just the way that it is.
So do you want to make it, folks? Yeah, go, Tane. Sorry, go.
I said, Totuka, I totally 100%. You know, we are in the Exodus moment, and not saying Lee or myself or Moses.
No.
We are just, it's a process that's been set down before us, and we just understand the language to articulate it and support the people, because it's about we the people for the people.
It's humanity that is the Exodus.
Yeah, exactly. And it's understanding that language.
Yeah. And our problem is we've got a lot of Aarons out there, folks. If you know anything about the Bible, all right, and Aaron, Moses' brother, okay, we got too many Aarons and not enough Moses. Aaron never kicked up against them when they started ripping everything down and making the idols, mate. He just stood by and watched them do it, right? And that's called complicit.
Yeah, exactly.
So another tool, Dave, that we can use as a visual tool is the rock going into the river or the pond and the ripple effect. And so we want to be recognizing that at this point, in terms of ripples, we've been in like the first, second, and third ripple. Your show, for example, is going to be creating the fourth and fifth ripple and the sixth ripple, and it's going to expand out from there. So, you know, if hypothetically we did this same show a week from now, a lot will have happened in this week, and humanity will have reorganized itself again to that higher frequency, because, you know, we've been dumbed down to such a low frequency. So we're elevating the frequency up energetically and at a consciousness level. And then you think a month from now and 2 months from now, because now we're going to be able to stand in the consciousness of understanding that we need to be asking everyone for their accountability. And where do you get your jurisdiction to be conducting yourself like that? And is this jurisdiction actually legal and lawful? And if your jurisdiction is falling into legal, then we have higher jurisdiction. And I'm sorry, you need to step forward and step into lawful jurisdiction. And so these are the sorts of languages. And it's actually really quite simple. As I said, they've confounded the legal system to keep everybody arguing and trying to find their way forward. And that's really why the grand jury came about, because having worked in these worlds for years and years and seeing people battle stuff out and over again, it's like, oh my God, this is ridiculous. This is going to go on forever. Let's stop it right now.
And like Tane says, you know, you can't argue with these people because they just whack it every time. They just manipulate the system to crush you. So as Tane says, you continue to ask questions and they can't answer. You know what I mean? And when they can't answer 3 times, guess what? In their own system, they're in trouble. You know?
Well, their own system is a legal system, so they're free to do whatever they want. They're not practicing law. They're not following divine principles. So they're always going to outwit you if you go into their den, right?
Yeah. Largely. But Lee said something earlier, law will overrule legal. So it's important that everyone studies law. Now, there's case precedents in New Zealand that I'm aware of where IRD, and which is the tax equivalent to ATO here, they will take businesses and people in under policy, under legal, and call it law. And if you don't know the law or the language, you'll be trapped in their jurisdiction and their policies. You've got to call, and we've got to learn. If you want to travel to France, would you not be better to study French? If you want to study freedom, wouldn't it be better you study law instead of legal and stop arguing with the legal because it has no jurisdiction? And would you not be better to ask questions to get them to confess that they are illegally working? And that's how I won my cases, was not by argument, is by letters of rogatory. Use the law. The Privy Council taught us to use the law against the law by asking questions, because it will explode, because it can't tell the facts. It's got to keep the deception. And if you expose the legal with the law through questions, you'll shut it down. And that's what this system is with Lee's God, is go in there, register yourself into a lawful process. If you've got issues, register them. And let the grand jury and the process and get yourself a new language. Because ask yourself, how's it working for you? How's it working for you? If it's not working for you, then try something totally different. Transform yourself to another language. Stop carrying on with a system and a language that's not working for you. There's only two laws on the planet: trust law and contract law. So ask yourself, where are you contracting? Like in the Bible, we fell out of the Garden of Eden, out of the spirit, because the Garden of Eden is the spirit. It's the synergy of all spirits in harmony. No competition, no battling with each other, no arguments. It was abundant. We fell out of that jurisdiction because two people bit an apple and fell out of the garden onto the commerce, the duality, into their heads, into duality. And from that duality, we've been battling the positive, the negative, the good and the bad. It's a constant battle. We've got to give up that, part the seas of our left brain and our right brain, and get back to the garden. And that's what this system and structure is talking about energetically. And it's supported by the astrology. But we've got to give up our minds and get back. And how we get into the minds, because we've got to stop registering, because the government says register. Well, you need to look up that language. To sell your car, your child, anything you register in the government doesn't belong to you anymore. You've sold it, and you only get the use of it back. So that's why they can come in and take your children. They can take your car
pay
off.
for the privilege.
Yes.
They don't pay for your kids' school, and you do, but they own them.
Exactly. Yeah. So you've got to learn the language to stop registering and making applications. You've got to stop begging. Application means to beg for a higher authority. So when you're begging for a higher authority, you're devaluing your God status, your status as the God, as the creator, as the karmic cause, because we're all cause and we create effects. And that responsibility of knowing that you're cause, and the responsibility of accepting the karma of that cause to be the coming back at you, we still need to take responsibility. So if you understand the laws of God, then you're going to be accountable for your life.
Amen.
And not the government. Does that make sense?
Well, I got to wrap it up there, folks, because I got another stream to go over to over in America, actually, very soon. But listen, this has been a very, very interesting and, gobsmacking program, actually. Especially to have Tane come up here and recommend that actually people go to your system means a hell of a lot to me. I really respect Tane's views and what Tane has done and where Tane stands in his equity law. So, for Tane to be saying, let's get together and let's do something, that is a very, very big endorsement for you, Lee. So, Lee, I thank you for coming on here. I think we ought to do this again. I think we ought to, I'm going to push this out there. We'll get this going, and then I'll do a couple of drops. And, maybe in a week's time or something, we come back again and we just go over this again and just see what we've got. You know what I mean? And as you say, the times are changing. Everything's changing from week to week at the moment. These guys are moving so quick in their evil plans that, So, again, people, look, go, Tane.
Thank you very much.
I'm just saying that in the next week, we have a lot of shifts happening. So by the time we come back, we were implanted some real good tools in the system for people to pick up and run. And I'm excited to working with Leith in achieving that.
No, me too, fellas. Pooh, I think this is absolutely great. And this is what we need to do, okay, is bring everybody together, folks, because I hate to be a doom and gloom guy, but we either get together and we win this thing united, okay, or we're going to be fighting something that we can't fight against, folks. Okay, we're going to let them have the upper hand, okay? And they're starting to see the pushback now, and this is why they're coming at us so hard. Now, folks, just start thinking too, Okay, I want people in the major cities. All right, I just want you to start thinking, start looking after your health. Okay, we have a holistic lady here sitting beside me. Okay, I can tell you from what is going on overseas, they are coming for your water supply. They are coming for it. Okay, it is happening already. I have the evidence. I have the pictures. I have the skin fucking peeling off people's hands. I have the welts on their body. Okay, all from showering in water. Okay, this is an organic lady. She eats right. She does everything right. Since the pandemic started, she cannot go under the water in this particular country. Okay, folks, it's coming our way too. Okay, so just another little thing to put in the back of your mind. Okay, what if they take our water system out? People get together. Get together, start using the things that these people here, these people on the screen with me, okay, are giving you. Okay, it's friggin' free. Nothing the government's going to give you is free. These people are sitting here, well, you know, they might give you a lottery ticket if you want to have a jab or something like that, but I can assure you, anything that's good for you, they ain't giving away for free. Okay, anything that's going to screw you up and put you into their little plan of destruction, they will give you for free. Don't you worry about it. Anything apart from that, you're paying for, folks. That's the way it is. Okay, so I strongly advise to go back. I'm going to we'll put this back out there, okay? We might do an edited one. We might just whack it out like it is. We might do an edited one for the major points, you know, and bang out a smaller one where people are just going, 30 minutes, yeah, bang, I'll watch that, you know what I mean? And we'll hit the highlights, but we'll do something with it. We'll get it out there again. Yeah, unfortunately, I have to run. But look, thank you, Lethal. I think that is just absolutely brilliant. And as I say, anything backed by Tane has got my 100% because I've been talking to the guy for a little while now, and I know he is switched on. So, folks.
Thank you. Appreciate the time and the opportunity to put it out there so people can also just dig in and see a very simplified version of what's gone on and how to change jurisdiction. We're moving from inferior jurisdiction to superior jurisdiction. That is what we are doing.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
okay, Dave. Thanks, Mel. Yeah, thanks, Dave. I really appreciate it, and thank you, Leith. I really appreciate it. And keep up the great work.
Real Deal Media in the USA and myself appreciate a lot more than what you guys do, mate. I can tell you, because this is what, you know, we're here for. Okay, this is what these alternative platforms, and we are getting whacked at the moment, people. I'm telling you. I've just put up a new page, totally to the side of me, okay, that we were supposed to be sharing on today, and it's only been kept for live streams. I've done 2 live streams. Leaf, you've got to learn some, don't use that V word because it'll ping us straight away. So call it a jab or a cocktail or whatever you want. But folks, I've done 2 lives on that channel. Okay. We've got the channel out there, got heaps of people done 2 lives and they're banging me already. Okay. And covering it up with censorship. So just be known, folks. Okay. This is what to expect. Okay. They done a little drop off of the internet the other day. Believe me, folks, that was a test. That was a test. Okay. If this information starts to come out about the audit, if we start to get the upper hand and the people are pushing back to a stage where the cabal, etc., and the deep state think that they need to go to the next step, they will shut it down, folks. That was a test. They will just shut it down. They don't care. They don't care. They stop us talking. They're just about one. Okay. So believe me, start downloading anything that you have that's important, okay, and start, getting to know people in your community, okay, because if all this stuff goes down, folks, it's no really use me knowing Leaf in Western Australia, okay. If this goes down, I'm going to need to know people in my community who are like-minded, okay. Someone needs to have the water, someone needs to have the vegetables, someone needs to have this, people. Start talking. I'm not trying to be a scaremonger. I used to laugh at the preppers. 15, 20 years ago when those preppers shows first come out on television, man, I used to sit there and go, you idiots, what would you be doing that for? Now these people are the most intelligent people I've ever met on the planet, mate. They knew 25, 30 years ago what was going on. You know what I mean? So, folks, let's catch up with the times. That's what I like to say, okay? We're in trouble. As humanity, we are in trouble. We are standing on a knife's edge, okay? And we can tilt either way, folks. okay? And it is only the power of the people that is going to get us there. And obviously the things that Leith and Tane are putting out to us and other like-minded people, okay? So I'd like to thank Leith again. Tane, just bring it back in for a minute, Mel. Just like thank you guys for coming on, and we're going to do something else again in a week's time, okay? So from now, folks, I would like you to have a good look, okay? You've got the, in the comments and that over there, you have the website if you want to just whack it up once more, Mel, before we shut down. Go and have a look, folks. Okay, is that still in the banner, darling? It's coming. Okay, there it is. Okay, executiveorders.life. Okay, people, share this around, get onto it, have a look. We're going to convene in a week's time, and we're going to see what you think about it and how far we've gone with it, folks. Okay, so from sunny New South Wales at the moment, we are looking like rain in the next few days. What's Western Australia like over there?
Stunning, beautiful.
Stunning and beautiful. Yeah, the doctor's blowing yet or not?
No, it's all good. It's gorgeous.
Nah. Yeah, cool. He comes up in the arvo most days. But Tane,
Yeah.
Queensland, what's it like?
Beautiful, mate. Absolutely sunny, warm. It's beautiful.
Beautiful one day.
But it's all just
the next. They keep saying, yeah.
Absolutely, mate. And it's often just a mirror of us.
All right, folks. We'll leave it there. Thank you very much, and we'll talk to you very soon. Thanks, Tane.
Thank you, mate.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you,
Take
Mel.
care. Thanks, Mel.